Flash photography can seem a little bit intimidating to a lot of photographers. I know for me, it's something I avoided for a long time because it just felt like there was a lot to set up, a lot to think about, a lot to kind of work out in terms of how it actually gets set up with the camera, but then how to use it for the best results and get good stuff and adjust exposure and all that kind of stuff. Well, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about why off-camera flash is so useful, how powerful a tool this is. It's Tutorial Tuesday. Welcome back to Tutorial Tuesday, where each and every Tuesday we bring a brand new, fresh photography tutorial. This week is no different. We're talking about off-camera flash specifically. Now, what is off-camera flash? Well, this is obviously a flash. This is the Canon Speedlite EL1. Off-camera flash just means we're gonna set this up separate from our camera. I was using the R6 II for the shoot that I did for this video. We're gonna set this up separately on a light stand, or you could have someone hold it for you if you want. That's actually really useful. If you know someone who's willing to do that, it makes it so easy to then just move the flash around to get really good results. So that's a little bonus tip. If you have someone who's gonna do that for you, great news. And other than the flash and the camera, all you're gonna need is some kind of controller to actually fire the flash. Now, you can get a separate controller that just sits on top of your camera. I was actually using a second flash, which was sitting on top of my camera, and then I just synced the two. It's actually very easy to set this up. We're not gonna go into a detailed explanation of how to set it up because different flashes might be a little bit different, but essentially this goes on. The controller goes on top of the camera. It automatically connects with the R6 II, which is really useful once it just slots in here on that shoe on the top. You set the controller and the flash to the same channel, and there you go, they're synced up, and every time you press the shutter, it's gonna fire that flash. So the setup is definitely a lot easier than it might initially seem if you've never used flash before. But the beauty of off-camera flash is we can completely control where that light's coming from, obviously how strong and intense that light is, but we can create different moods, the whole ambience of the scene. We can light different things in different ways. You know, it's very easy to start off, and I will tend to start off with a pretty standard, you know, if I'm sat here, camera facing, model over there, I will then have the flash about 45-degree angle, so diagonal onto my model. That means that the face is gonna be nicely lit, there's gonna be a little bit of shadow, and I can adjust from there. But you can try things like backlighting, side lighting, all kinds of stuff. The other beauty of something like this is it's powerful enough to be used in pretty much any type of condition. So absolutely, in a room like this, super useful because it's quite dark in here. Absolutely, the shoot we did last night with these photos, super useful because it's actually not too bright in there, but you can use this on a bright, sunny day. Absolutely no problem. You're still gonna get some really good use out of it, and it does a lot for your photo. Now, before we get into exactly how I set up my off-camera flash, like for example in the shoot last night, let's talk about why this is so powerful and why this is so useful. First up, good lighting makes or breaks a photo. If you just don't have good lighting, you don't have a good photo, generally speaking. It's just such a key part of the photo, and a flash is a really easy way to get some great lighting in there. It's gonna do things like make your photo seem sharper, the detail and the clarity is gonna be better, you're gonna probably have a better quality photo because you can use a lower ISO value, for example, so you have less noise. Overall, the photo is gonna look a lot more professional, and just like you know what you're doing, which is really, it's a really nice thing to have, and they just come out so well. As a videographer, I use continuous lights a lot. I've got one on me right now, and I actually used to use those pretty much exclusively when I would do studio photo shoots or when I needed to light my photos as well. And if you've ever done that, you know that is a pretty useful way of doing things. You can see the exposure through the camera as you're setting up the light. You know exactly what it's gonna look like, but the beauty of something like this is it is extremely portable. It's so easy to use, it's small, it just fits in your bag. You don't have to really think too much about it. You can pop this on a light stand, or you can have someone holding it like I mentioned before. It's just a very easy thing to be able to use. Plus, because it's only firing a flash instead of just a constant light, it's able to output a lot more intense light, you know, very quickly. And you don't have to plug it in, right? You just use batteries. Now, obviously there's continuous lights that use batteries as well, but it just lasts longer, it's just easier. This is such a useful tool for photography. So okay, how exactly would I set something like this up? Well, let's look at my shoot that I did last night. We found this kind of nice tunnel that we were able to use with this lighting. The lighting was a bit not ideal for photography. I mean, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but it certainly made for a nice ambient kind of mood in there, but certainly not something I would use for taking photos with just that lighting. But before you even start thinking about the flash, you want to think about composition. You want to set up how you want your photo to look. So essentially, I set up my model in the middle of this tunnel, and I set up my tripod, my camera on the tripod, so that I can get the exact composition I want to go for. I take a photo so that I know, okay, this is the composition we're going to go for. I'm going to expose for the ambient light around my model, because that's essentially what I need to expose for. Do I want it to be a little bit darker? Do I want it to be a little bit brighter? That's up to me, right? That's something I can change as I'm going, but I want to set up my composition and expose for that ambient light. That way, I'm fully set up for the actual photo side of things. Now, we're gonna add that light in. There are times when you might want to actually just use the ambient light. This photo, for example, looks great with just the ambient light. I think that's a really moody, interesting photo. But for the most part, we're going for a different kind of look, and we're gonna wanna use flash. Now, this is where we add our flash in. First up, we're just gonna actually put this in, like I say, 45-degree angle on the side of our subject. So Matilda here, we've got a flash being held for me, just pointing straight at her, a little bit above her, and about a 45-degree angle, just as it is. We fire that off, that looks okay, but the actual flash, the actual light, is a little bit harsh. And the beauty of something like this is there's lots of different ways to actually adjust and control and change this light. In this situation, what we want to do is diffuse it. Now, there's lots of different ways that we can do that. Of course, a classic way is to use something like an umbrella, just a white umbrella. You can get them, they're really not that expensive. And this fires into the umbrella, creates a very nice diffuse light. I didn't have an umbrella, but I'll tell you what I did have, and that's a white t-shirt. Now, I know you're thinking, surely that's not going to be as good, but essentially, this is just, white material that this is able to then fire through. And that's going to diffuse that light really, really nicely. And it actually looks fantastic. Or alternatively, you can mount things actually to the flash, something like a softbox or something like that. But if you don't have anything like that, you make do with what you've got. And in this situation, a white t-shirt worked perfectly. Now that's going to diffuse the light. We're going to get nice soft light onto our subject. So let's add that in. Now this is lovely. Our subject is looking really, really nice in this photo. But of course, we have our assistant in the photo holding the flash. But that's why we took a photo previously. That's why I've got the camera on a tripod. You don't have to worry about this if you're taking a slightly tighter shot, or maybe you just move around so you don't have your assistant in the shot, or you don't have your light stand in the shot. For me, I was a little bit constricted by the space in this tunnel, but I knew that having the camera on a tripod meant I could take one photo of the overall surroundings without the flash, then take another photo with the flash, and I could just merge them in Photoshop. A little bit of editing, and you end up with something like this. Now that's a far cry from the kind of photo that I was able to get with just the ambient lighting. And you can experiment with where you place that flash. Yes, having it directly kind of to the side of our model like that gives us really nice, beautiful lighting, but you could go for more of a side lighting or a back lighting, like something like this. The beauty of this is you are completely in control of where that light is coming from, how intense it is, and the overall look of your photo. If you want a darker overall ambient scene, but your subject to still be nice and bright, you can control that. You're completely in control. You would just expose down so that you darken the overall scene and just bring the light intensity of this up. It means you're able to really create the exact result that you want to go for. Now, this is true obviously in a tunnel like this, it's true in an environment like this, but you can use this outdoors. If you want to shoot at sunset, you are able to control exactly how much ambient light you want in that photo. Do you want it a bit darker? Do you want it a bit lighter? And then use the flash accordingly to light your subject. You could also use this on a lower setting to just fill in some areas of shadow, to really just fill in some darkness. That can be a really useful way of using this as well. There is so much versatility for what you can do with this. Ultimately for me, this just means you are completely in control of the kind of results that you're going to get. You're able to get very consistent results because you are in control of the light, and you can get some really beautiful stuff. The main thing this does for me is take those images up another level. They look professional. I'm just very, very happy with how they've come out. And it's so much easier than trying to use a continuous light. I have used a continuous light out and about before, ones that you can use batteries with, and that is handy. That's a helpful thing to be able to do. But to be honest, I would never go back from using something like this as an off-camera flash now. It just enhances everything about the photo, and you can really get the exact image you've got in your head. I'd love to hear if you have any other tips about using off-camera flash, anything you've learned over your time using it, or are you a complete newcomer to it, and is this something you're willing to give a try? It was something that really scared me for a while. I don't know why. I don't know why exactly, but it just really intimidated me. But I've been playing around with Flash for a little while now, and I just can't see myself going back to continuous light when it comes to photography, because something like this is just so useful. And the portability, that is such a big deal. Now you can check out these flashes, this camera, everything we use for this shoot by checking out the links down in the description. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. We've got new content all the time. I'll be seeing you in the next video, but until then, as always, thanks for watching.